Tom, are you okay?
I lost her.
Her?
She was going to be this epic, trilogy-worthy character. I was going to be the hottest writer in Hollywood. But I can't get past Act 1!
You need some writers group therapy. Hello and welcome to Writers Group Therapy.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Roshni. We're writers helping writers. Are you ready for your session? The doctors are in. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at WG Therapy. You can also follow us individually. I'm at Roshni Lamino.
And I'm at Tom_Loveman.
And we would love to have you follow us. So this is an interesting thought. You said you were kind of doing some research on morals in movies.
Yeah, I was thinking about, the old Aesop's fables one day and how movies and stories always had lessons and, don't look before you leap and, those kinds of things. And a leopard never changes his spots. And I was starting to think about movies recently and how it seems like they're all just like real, it's either a scary movie just to scare you or it's an action movie just to keep you excited, but they're not really as much of the teaching us life lessons as they used to be. And I actually looked it up online. I found a list on IMDb about the top 50 movies they listed on here with life lessons. All of them are from at least 5 years ago. Most of them like 8 to 10 years ago or longer. And so there's like no new movies on this list. They couldn't find any newer movies that had like really good life lesson.
That's interesting. I'm trying to think of all the movies I've seen recently, and now it's defunct for me, but thanks to MoviePass for the last year, I actually saw a way more movies than I had been watching in I don't even know, 5 years combined or something. I think aside from the big blockbuster aspect of a lot of movies, like say your Transformers films or something like that, a lot of them are slice of life ones. I saw Eighth Grade, Lady Bird. Those are great films. What's the other one with Casey Affleck that he won? Manchester by the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
They're great films, but they are very slice of life. So there's not a tidy bow at the end.
I see what
With a
you're
lesson.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's just good over evil. Like, well, you said aside from the big blockbusters, but those are still just good wins over evil. You hope.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
mean, even Harry Potter's a little bit older, but say the new one, Fantastic Beasts, that whole franchise now, they're fun, but yeah, I'm trying to think if there's like a lesson in there. Not really.
I mean, this is separate from when you talk about like the hero's arc. The heroes still have arcs of where they go through change, but like the lesson, I guess they used to be more. I don't want to say preachy to the audience, but it used to be much more obvious that the theme of the movies, I guess, was stronger. Um, strength and honor. Was like Gladiator, and trying to think of another one like oh, kind of blanking there.
Well, I'm looking down the list that you found on IMDb, and we can post
Oh
this link
yeah.
in the show notes. And they actually, whoever created this list has the little lessons that you can learn from
Mm-hmm.
each film, which are also themes. So it's not necessarily a preachy lesson, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is interesting to think about that shift, where and when it started and why. Maybe our audience is just not paying attention as much?
Yeah, I was just trying to find anything recent in there. So I'm trying to go through the movie, like you said, go through the movies we've seen, um, and I'm trying to think of anything that had a lesson. I'm like trying to go through the movies I saw. Like Solo had very little. There was like no lesson learned there. Just
No, because
be
it's a setup.
no.
It's a setup for
Yeah.
something bigger, yeah.
I saw the new, A Star Is Born, the remake of A Star Is Born, and I think it's like you said. I think we were talking about this earlier. You said it's just about this is the cautionary tale of what fame can bring you and how you should try to stay grounded and be yourself. But
But to be fair, so when we were discussing this just before we started recording, and you said, "I can't really think about what the lesson is." "What, don't commit suicide?" And I said, "But this movie, Star is Born, has been around for years.
since it's a
This is the
remake,
3rd
yeah.
time it's been done." So, the lesson from that, you can't count that because it is a remake. So, talking brand new, never been seen before movies, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And even the movies I'm writing, now that I think about it, I'm wondering, do my movies have a lesson? I think mine do, actually, because I usually start my when I'm writing my scripts with a premise. Um, Even the short films we did, Synesthesia, it's about someone who's obsessed with their smartphone, and it's the cautionary tale of that. Reclamation is a cautionary tale about giving your power away to someone else, to a company or the government or whatever, and how family is important, of course.
Well, maybe it's not so much a moral then as just the themes need to be more obvious to viewers.
Hmm.
I would argue even something like Tag or The Hangover or something would have a theme and even a little bit of a lesson. It's just kind of hidden under all the crazy slapstick stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I was just thinking about Groundhog Day is a classic one,
Mhm.
uh, and I don't think it's necessarily obvious because a lot of people watch it and just see it as a funny, time loop movie. But really, when you get down into it, it's really about grief. It's the 5 stages of grieving that he goes through as he learns to become a better person. It takes him, I forgot how many years it was. They actually figured out how many years he was in the time loop. It was something like 44 years or something. That's how many times he relived the day over. But, in that kind of situation, there's a really deep lesson to be learned, about being a better person, and all the different ways you can not be a better person, or the ways you think you can be a better person, but it really isn't. Of course, again, that was a movie from 1993. So again, recently though, I feel like we're not really getting those kind of lessons. People are really just going out for the action and the horror and that kind of thing.
I mean, okay, so I'm trying to think of like what Get Out probably had a
Hmm.
very good. I mean, it definitely had political and social undertones. What else? A Quiet
I would
Place.
imagine that would be one that would be very very good to figure out what the straight up message is. Kind of like the fable. Like, be careful when you go, into the monster's den for dinner because you're dinner.
Well,
So.
okay, A Quiet Place, what was the theme of that one?
Hmm. Oh, that's a that's a very that's a tricky one. Let me think. Uh,
I mean, there's a lot of self-sacrifice in that one. That's a
self-sacrifice.
theme, but that's not a moral.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because A Quiet Place drops us into the situation without telling us how it started, we don't really have a way to analyze, what was the error of our ways that led us to this. Because we're kind of coming in at the middle. This family's already living in this world, in this nightmare, having to live by these strict
But is it
rules.
relevant? See, that's the thing I have to wonder. Is it relevant to know? I mean, sometimes it is nice to know the backstory, but it's more, again, a slice of life about this family
Yeah.
surviving this apocalypse versus we shouldn't have let the aliens on our planet or whatever the moral of the story is.
Well, if there was going to be a moral of that story, it's like always take your batteries out of your toys. I
Be a better parent so they learn to be quiet. I don't
exactly.
know.
Well, the parents said that the dad said that the child couldn't have the toy, but the daughter gave it to him anyway.
No, my point of that is they've been living in this world for at least a year. They know they gotta be quiet. So,
Right.
obviously, something failed there in as far as communication between parent and child, because if the kid should have died right away, honestly. If the kid's gonna be loud, the whoever was loud would have died right away. This kid has been surviving in this apocalyptic world for a year. They should know they need to be quiet, would be my thought.
Hmm.
That's what I thought about that part. I mean, it's sad and it's tragic, and I get it had to happen, but I'm like, you guys have been in this for a little too long. This kid should know that it has to be quiet. He has to be quiet. So,
Yeah.
but I think I mean, aside from the fact that, yeah, a lot of these movies that we're naming are slice of life ones, so there really isn't a moral. Maybe that's really the big difference. A moral is different than a theme.
Sure.
And maybe modern movies really aren't moralizing anymore because a lot of things are changing and people are writing things to reflect society and kind of push political or social agendas versus trying to teach a life lesson, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's basically the what I was thinking when I brought this topic up. So, what do you guys think? Are we amoral? Have we become completely amoral in our filmmaking and our entertainment? Do we care about morals anymore?
And if you are going to put a moral in your in your script or play, how would you do it without being preachy or over the top? Let us know at writersgrouptherapy.com. Also, you can find us online, like we said earlier, WG Therapy. And if you like what you hear, subscribe and share it with your friends. Go on iTunes, give us a nice 5-star rating. We'll see you next week.